Welcome to my channel. Here we respond to comments. So, here we go. A thoughtful and detailed response. Thank you for your candid reply. I want to respond not with dismissal, but with clarity and mutual respect. Let's set the stage for a more meaningful dialogue by addressing some of the assumptions and misunderstandings in your response. My goal is to correct misrepresentations and further the conversation around atheism, intelligent design, ID, and the role of evidence and reason. 1. Misunderstanding the questions raised by ID. It's not about psychological needs or personal struggles. Intelligent design, ID, raises legitimate questions about life's complexity and the universe's fine-tuning. These are not just whimsical curiosities, but philosophical and scientific questions that cannot be brushed aside. Your framing suggests that these questions are somehow irrelevant or a symptom of intellectual deficiency. That assumption reflects the very dismissal and arrogance you accuse others of. The reality is that ID challenges naturalistic assumptions about life's origins by posing severe questions that deserve real engagement, not condescension. 2. Atheism as a lack of engagement. You suggest that atheism does not need to answer my questions. This is true. Atheism is, by definition, a lack of belief in gods or the supernatural. But the point is not just about what atheism doesn't have to do. It's also about whether atheism provides any meaningful framework for understanding existence, morality, or purpose. Suppose your worldview is centered on the idea that belief is only valid when empirical evidence supports it. In that case, you bear the same burden of justification when dismissing metaphysical claims like intelligent design. By avoiding meaningful engagement with ID, atheists fall into the trap of assuming their position is somehow immune to scrutiny. That's not how rational dialogue works. Every position, whether theistic or atheistic, deserves to be examined. 3. Ignorance and arrogance, on both sides. You accuse me of ignorance and incredulity, yet your response does not engage with the actual arguments I've made about irreducible complexity, fine-tuning, or the limitations of naturalistic explanations. Instead, you label these points as mere psychological needs or poor arguments, without actually demonstrating where they fail logically or empirically. Dismissing a position as ignorant without engaging with its core arguments is a logical fallacy, specifically an ad hominem. The irony is that you accuse me of using poor arguments while offering a dismissal rather than a substantive response. 4. Intelligent design, not incredulity, but inquiry. Let's address the accusation of incredulity head-on. ID does not rest on personal incredulity. It is an interpretation of empirical evidence that suggests certain features of the universe and life are best explained by intelligence. Here are two key arguments that merit attention. Irreducible complexity. Some biological systems, like the bacterial flagellum, require multiple interdependent parts to function. These systems could not have evolved step by step because any incomplete version of the system would be non-functional. This raises the question, how did these systems arise if natural selection requires functional intermediates? Fine-tuning of the universe. The precise constants that govern physics, such as gravity and the cosmological constant, are so finely tuned that even minor changes would render the universe lifeless. This precision suggests intentionality, not random chance. Dismissing these arguments as incredulity without providing a substantive alternative is not a sufficient response. 5. The role of evidence and the burden of proof. You've argued that atheism doesn't have to provide answers. However, skepticism is not a license to ignore evidence or refuse to engage with reasonable questions. The fine-tuning of the universe, the information content in DNA, and the irreducible complexity in biological systems all suggest something beyond blind, unguided processes. These are not mere assertions, they are observations rooted in empirical data. Information theory teaches us that complex, specified information requires an intelligent source. DNA contains such specified information. How can this arise without intelligence? Abiogenesis remains an unsolved problem, with no naturalistic explanation that fully accounts for the origin of life from non-living matter. Ignoring these gaps does not make them disappear. The burden of proof lies with both sides. It is not enough for atheists to say, "We don't believe you." They must also demonstrate that the naturalistic explanations they favor are reasonable and that the appearance of design is illusory. 6. The limits of naturalism. Atheism, when taken to the extreme of scientific naturalism, assumes that all phenomena must have natural explanations. However, naturalism has limits. It struggles to explain consciousness. How does subjective experience arise from physical processes alone? It provides no foundation for objective morality. How can we justify moral absolutes in a purely materialistic framework? It cannot account for the origin of the universe. Why is there something rather than nothing? These are not trivial issues. Intelligent design offers a coherent way to explore these questions, suggesting that intelligence, rather than randomness, is the best explanation for the patterns we observe in life and the universe. 7. The importance of engaging in honest dialogue. I genuinely appreciate your willingness to engage in this discussion. However, meaningful dialogue requires more than dismissing the other side as ignorant or psychologically deficient. It requires a willingness to engage with the actual arguments being presented, not just attacking straw men or assuming intellectual superiority. I am not asking atheists to suddenly believe in God. What I am asking for is honest engagement with the questions intelligent design raises. If you believe naturalism is sufficient to explain everything, then demonstrate that sufficiency. If you believe ID is flawed, then show where it fails logically or empirically. But don't just dismiss it as incredulity or psychological need. 8. Conclusion. A call for thoughtful engagement. In conclusion, the conversation between theism, atheism, and intelligent design is not about dismissing opposing views, but about engaging with them honestly and rigorously. Both sides must bear the burden of defending their claims and must remain open to the possibility that their assumptions could be challenged. Atheism often claims to be the voice of reason and evidence. If that is the case, then engage with these questions on their own terms, rather than dismissing them as psychological coping mechanisms or personal incredulity. Let's pursue truth and understanding together, recognizing that both theists and atheists are seeking answers to the profound mysteries of existence. Thank you again for your response. I hope this conversation continues with respect and curiosity.